Yes, we're live.
And then I snorted a whole line of coke off of a hooker's ass. And
Whole
that,
what?
hey
A
everybody,
whole
welcome to the
line?
podcast. I
Yeah.
didn't know that we were live. Sorry
Oops.
about
A
that.
whole
Oops. Good old Friday
line of Coke.
nights. Good old line of coke. Coca Cola.
Hell yeah.
Coca
Cola.
Cola, of course. Okay,
Coca
okay.
Cola.
Barbecue sauce on her titties. There we go.
That's
Well,
right.
I think the sound is working for everyone, so hopefully we don't have a scuffed episode, even though it's not an episode if it's not scuffed.
Yeah, I'm sure Discord will fail on me at about 9 o'clock, like always.
There you
But
go.
that's
Just
okay.
do
Well,
signs. Hand
welcome to
signals.
Red or Dead. I'm Damon.
I'm Fox.
I'm Arden, aka Trick Daddy.
Oh,
Here for
I'm
tonight.
Dozer.
Ooh, in the
The
house.
man, the
Dulcia.
myth,
The
the
Lord.
legendary Pokemon
the Lord.
himself.
Savior. He
Oh,
hath entered to deliver us from the shields.
That's right.
Welcome.
what? Add a
to
shield. Deliver from other shields.
The best shield. Let's be honest.
So
So
Hello,
Dozer,
everyone.
why don't you give us a little history of yourself and how you got where you're at now?
Okay. So the abridged version, back all the way back in 2007, I used to play WoW with Dak, and ultimately he told us about this, game they did, fighting game, and basically we all decided that we wanted to try it. Everybody in the group. So we all met up at Rag in 2007, and this was back when Rag was at the old campsite, the Cooper's Lake, and I loved it. But I didn't have any like real fighting around me at the time. It was it basically kind of dried up where I was, and so I didn't really get into actually like really pushing fighting until probably about it was about 2010, and we all went back to Rag that year, and I was really interested in actually like getting into the game, and that was actually I think the same year that the Order videos were filmed. The Order Take One that was at the new campsite, and I was actually there whenever they were taking those trials, and so from there I tried to get more into the game. I actually Dak, he hadn't moved down to South Alabama yet, but he had visited, and we had made these really crappy blues. It was like pretty much more Gorilla Tape and PVC than it was anything else. And I swung those blues on like my computer chair, like this, and like really just tried to get as good as I can by like with really nothing around me. And shortly after that, Dak moved down to Alabama because Holly was going to college for a nursing program, and so he moved down here, and ultimately, in between, then we went to another Rag, and that was when Rothgar came, and we were all part of the Order at that time, and we met Rothgar, and I think I don't know if we had any more trials at that point or not. Rothgar hadn't joined the unit yet, and shortly after that, the Order blew up. We ended up with, and that one, like, it's kind of interesting because I kind of time my like memory based on Rags because they were like such a big event every year for us, especially for me who didn't really have a lot of local fighting, and so we really had like kind of a huge explosion of the unit at that time, and from there I just really started like picking up on it because Mike had moved down and we got to spar all the time, and he really kind of like gave me my first real like kick into the game, which was lucky because he was also kind of pioneering red at the time. We before then he was a sword and border, and really no one used red, like especially like back in my first rag, like red was not used often. No reds, and if you did, it didn't have a stab tip. It was like the game was just so much slower, and nobody would take your shield hit. It was just a very different game, very primitive. And Aridin probably could, or Damon, whoever's been fighting back then. But um, Dak decided to pioneer it because he was kind of tired of the upper tier sword and board grind, and luckily I kind of was like a part of him, being able to teach, and from there, we had another rag, and that was when the other order videos were, where everybody was trialing, and I was actually in some of those, but I wasn't really ever very like super connected with the order. I was in the order because of Dak, but I didn't really know very many people outside of it, other than the Southeast crew. Um, because we got to see those when we go to like Florida day battles and whatnot. And so, from there I ended up leaving the order, and I was kind of fishing around for a little while. And that was right around the time Kodos was being made, because I kind of knew Picnic and Gorg, and I thought about joining Kodos at that time, but I mean I was like not a good fighter back then by any stretch of the imagination, and I also wanted to join Suns, but I didn't know any of them, because those were kind of the unit that I always that I always kind of like looked up to, um, ever since Aiden whooped the shit out of me and like 5 other people at rag, like my second rag ever. He just like cleaned us up, and it was like kind of like those were the guys I just like really looked up to, and you know but anyway, Dak ended up having some issues with the order as well, so he ended up leaving, and me and him kind of like romanticized this like 2-man unit of just like people who try to push themselves with fighting and whatnot. And that's when we kind of created like the Ebon Light, and we didn't really know if anybody from the order would follow us, and ended up the Southeast guys, they all.
Did we lose him?
Yeah, I can't hear anything from him either.
Of course.
Wait,
Of course.
I got this. Hold on. I got this. Hold on.
Oh,
Alchemy.
hand signs. Oh,
No, the new Harry Potter game came out. You gotta do wizard stuff.
Fuck. Ow. I just
Stortus.
fucked with-
Like if you're not failing at something. And so
oh, you're back.
Hey, you made it.
Hey, welcome
Hey, you were
back.
gone.
what happened?
You cut out.
You monologued to yourself.
Yeah.
Rip.
Yep.
What's the last thing you heard?
Southeast bullet. You wasn't sure if you wasn't.
Now Arden's messing up.
Oh
What?
no.
What the
Not like
fuck?
these.
Uh-oh.
Ah!
Who's hosting this call?
Discord.
Damon is.
What? No.
Him and turn
Yeah,
off your porn.
the Florida Evans started about.
Yeah, okay. But anyway, so let me rewind, I guess. But Florida Evans joined, and we really kind of just tried to take the best from the order. The order had really good trials, which everyone knows from the videos and whatnot, and so like we wanted to adapt that, but we also wanted the fear of failure, because like if you can't fail, you can't learn. Like the order trials, you really couldn't fail. You just had to keep going, and then eventually you would pass. And we really wanted it to where like we were setting a bar and asking you to either get over like to work hard and get over the bar, and if you couldn't, then you learn something. You learn something
Yeah.
about yourself. You could practice and try to achieve it. And the trials in light, even to this day, really don't really like, it's not like a rank structure where you have like really any kind of extra power. It's more about like proving to yourself that you can overcome challenges. And that was really like, even to this day, I think the Ebon Light trials have like a 75% failure rate or something like that. Like, they're made to test you. And that was really like something that we really wanted to push in a unit, because and it goes for anything. It wasn't just like originally it was combat, because that's all me and Dak knew, unga bunga. But like it was really it was really about like doing that with anything. You could, whether it be art or whether it be archery or whether it be anything, we wanted people to believe that they could like achieve the things that they wanted to do. And that was just like, really important to us at that, especially at that time. And I didn't feel like you could get there given the order structure. And so it was like, what do you do? And, we made a new unit. So, and, you know, and the Southern order guys, and the northern ones that came with us really, we really just built a great unit from there. And, Dak led at first, I led for a while, and then Rage leads now. Um, so,
Amazing
so yeah, I
conclusion.
mean, that's kind of the history.
I remember is my sound going through?
There you go.
There you
Now
go,
it is.
now it
Yeah.
I was like, I remember.
Yeah.
Is this better?
Yes.
It's
Okay.
better.
Yeah, I remember the first time that I ran into you. I think it was at Ides of March. I think, and I remember like kind of like toasting through people, and I don't think I'd ever seen you before, and I don't even think you were wearing like garb that looked really really great, but you had like maybe like a black like muscle shirt on or some shit.
Hell
And
yeah.
I remember
Probably.
like running up to you and like I didn't know you, so I just kind of was like, okay, this must just be like some rando. And like I remember throwing shots, and you were just like block, block, bam, like right across the chest, like Nani, what is this? And then like I remember fighting you a couple times there, and it's probably where we started like being friends and stuff. It's just being like, holy shit, dude, like good stuff. But
Yeah, I got like the power leveling of Dak, because I really didn't get like hardly any local fighting. So it was just Dak beating the shit out of me, and like that's all I had to like learn off of. And we would just go to events and it's like, what have you learned? And it's like, okay, like
Yeah,
so
cash in your souls.
yeah, for sure.
That's awesome.
So that was and really even like Rage eventually moved in with me for a little while as well. But overall, like our local fighting here, just where I live, just we don't have a lot of people, and our local field doesn't really have a lot of veterans at it. So it's a lot of my like fighting over my entire history has been really like I have to like analyze video and then take that video and like drill, and that's, I have like a bob, or whatever, but like all my practice really, a lot of it came from just drilling on bob and then trying to get what spars I could and see how that like affected, my fighting. So
it's kind of crazy like seeing how different people like progress throughout the game and like at what speed. It all depends on like so many factors. Like you said, you didn't really have a ton of people to fight against, but like you had like a certain method that you use. Like I know at least for me and probably Damon as well, like we fought with like Albion for the most part, so it's
Yeah.
like nothing but getting the shit kicked out of me by Aiden and Braun and Bell and all them constantly. And so it's always interesting to see like depending on where you're at, just exactly how you shift to like become a great fighter. Because everybody doesn't have like a field that just constantly kicks their ass. Some people grow up with like a fighting park that's they're the top dog, and I think it's very difficult to like to
Yep.
really grow from
That's
that.
me. I had
that
a field of
perspective.
walking pels. That's
Yeah.
what I had to deal with.
Yeah, I was talking to
It's-
Aiden at the muster the other day about the first time I came out and he took my damn sword and killed me with it.
Aiden will forever be my counter. I don't give a fuck how good at red I get or how like bad he gets at sword and board. Not that he's bad, but if he got worse, like it doesn't matter. He just is always gonna like have my number. So I've just
Yeah.
kind of come to terms with it. So
yeah,
But
he's
cool.
very fast. He's like very like quick to,
he's close in. He's like
Yeah.
he's like so when you fight him with a red, like from my and I'm sure you would kind of analyze it the same way. He moves so quickly and he's so tucked. It's very hard to like really get anything open on him. So it's like, what do you do? Hit him in the legs? I don't want to hit people in the fucking legs. That's me going, you know what? I don't have anything else to hit, so I'm just gonna touch your mobility off. But yeah. it's tough.
Sometimes you gotta do that though.
Well, you should do that. I mean, like
Yeah.
realistically, you should be generating threat wherever you can, and then that opens up other stuff. But I don't know. Me personally, anytime I run into somebody, if I have to hit them in the legs, usually that's me going like, "Fuck, I have not gotten any other opening. I need to at least
Yeah.
start making some moves." But
normally when you hit someone in the legs anyway, it like because your sword tip's down and your hands are down, your entire upper body's like cheese pizza, you know.
Yep.
So it's
Yep.
like, you know, unless you have something blocking or armor or something to trade, like going for the legs, and it's also like the longest extension for your sword. It's kind of just ends up in a bad spot for you for sure.
I know
Talking about protecting your upper body, it's a good segue. You want to talk about the birth of the buckler because it's named after you.
Yeah,
created this mess.
yeah.
Yep.
I unfortunately, honestly, so I used to use back shield. And this was actually kind of like a lot of people didn't use any shields. Like red users, like most of the guys I knew, they really didn't use any kind of shield at all. It was just like, here's my red sword, and maybe like a little tiny buckler, or some people you would use like a weird back shield or something like. And I was like trying to get a back shield that really like kind of like the modern back shields that really protect from like basically from ass to basically shoulders. And so anyway, but what I found out is that like when I would get into a duel and I didn't have it, then I would start to throw a shot expecting to catch a block, and the habit of my fighting would really like be so ingrained into having that back shield that it would screw me in and I was kind of like, well, I to have to like try to learn two styles or have habits ingrained from one thing to another. And so I was like, how do I get like, something that really I don't have to like change my style. I can just put it on. It works off. I can kind of fight the same. And that's kind of like where the buckler idea kind of came from. Because most people would put the buckler on their left arm. And that would be like, what most people think with like a sword and board, I'm going to put it on my left arm, I'm going to use my right. But I always notice that if you like profile, your shield would basically end up behind you after you did a normal swing. And so I was like, well, why don't you just put it on this arm? And a lot of that, the issue with that is like if it wasn't fit properly, then your hand would basically either catch it or it would get in the way or it hit you in the, hit you in the face. And so, I mean, and you know, my unit can kind of attest to this. Like, so I went through a lot of variations of like trying to figure out what was the perfect fit, how to strap it properly, because like we didn't have the uh pauldron strap originally. And so one time I had to cinch it so tight that my like hand was like could barely get out of my glove. Like it had swollen up to like a balloon. And like I hadn't noticed. I was like fighting all day and I like pull this shield, like my glove off, and I'm like, oh my god, so um we ended up with a pauldron strap idea. And that, also going to the round shape to stop it from being like so wobbly and balanced was a big one. But those are all things that like, just kind of they make sense now, but whenever I was like thinking about it back then, I don't know, I just the round shape seemed like you would have had to get like way bigger on the edges and that it would start to get in the way. But I mean, it ended up just kind of working out. And Gorg really came up with the round shape more than anything else. Um, and yeah, um, overall, like I kind of it's one of the you kind of wish you disinvent you could disinvent because like
Carbonate foot.
it mixed with that it's really pretty devastating I think to game balance. um and I mean I use my buckler in like competitive like formats. I don't really like to use it outside of that just because it does limit some of your like shot selection, and it can kind of make things a little bit static. So
That's I mean, that's kind of where I've settled on it too. It's like, I think competitively, I do feel like it's the best option to like, get the most work done with, what you can do in like a tournament setting.
hmm
But I don't, I do think now that I've tried doing stuff without it, it's just more fun to me to fight without it. So it's like
yeah,
cool. I'll use it in a tournament, and then maybe if I'm just getting the shit kicked out of me all day with archers or some other reason. But yeah, that's kind
yeah,
of
it's like a heavy kit for me. I kind
yeah.
of think of it that way.
time to win kind of deal. Like time
Yeah.
time to fucking throw down.
Yeah, because I mean, also, you can bash the shit out of people like that too. Like, it's not, it's a multi. All your defense is forward, so it's
Yeah.
like.
Yep.
But I do like the stylistic choice of the back shield, and I really always have. It just, like I said, it was really whenever I was starting to try to like duel a lot and stuff. I didn't want to have to keep switching like mindsets of like, you know, do more spins now or do more, guards now. Like that was pretty much the primary reason.
You may not know this, Dozer, but this is the perfect time to tell this story of why I started using a buckler, and it does have to do with you, but not for the reason people probably think. So you probably recall the Ragnarok. I don't know how many years ago it was. But anyways, so I was feeling pretty good going through the red tournament. I think I 2-0'd every match, and I get to the finals, and guess who was there? It was Mr. Dozer here,
Mr.
and
Dozer.
and he fucking smoked me so quick. And I went on this like this journey with myself. I was like, I need to figure out everything that makes this man tick. And I was like, I'm gonna buy a buckler, and I'm gonna fight with that buckler, and I'm gonna figure everything out. And I just didn't fucking put it down for a while. It's like I need to figure all this stuff out. But yeah, it's weird that like buckler's so strong, but it's also like kind of getting to the point of just being hated because it is very strong and it's kind of boring. But I don't know.
Yeah, the passive defense like that it grants, I mean, it's pretty much an unbreakable front shoulder pauldron. That's kind of like ultimate, I mean, if anything, it covers all the way up to the arm. So it's like,
Mhm.
it's kind of unbreakable armor for that, like your lead side, which if a sword and border is rushing you, it pretty much just cuts their quadrant down to a hip wrap, And
Yep.
so it's like if they try to hip wrap, you just cut their arm off and Dunsky,
Mhm.
So, or if they try to trade anywhere else, it's kind of, it's really strong. Um, I've always said I think it's the best shield placement, like statically, hands down. I think a
Mhm.
back shield has certain dynamics where in certain situations it can be situationally better, or you can, make it work with spins and whatnot. But I think overall, the shoulder buckler is the most powerful shield for a red user to use. I mean,
Yeah, I agree.
only second only to the shin shield.
Yeah.
Gotta have a shield.
No, we
Nothing
had a
like
guy with a shin shield.
I know, I remember.
Somebody in chat said bucklers are for people that can't figure out spins. I fucking spin with a buckler on
Yeah.
all day, my
I
dude.
do all the time
Easy.
too.
All day.
They don't
Is it
expect
always practical? No, but I do it.
Yeah.
No, there's definitely like the hey, I need to win this tournament like setup, and then the like I actually enjoy using this. Back shield is very much a like
Yeah.
I want to have fun and I want to like do more like shots and stuff. But
Something else with back shields that always kind of irked me is that like when people throw a wrap on you and hit it, like because they don't realize they're hitting a shield, like sometimes there can be, and this hasn't really happened with me, but like, cause I don't really use back shields all that often, but like I seen it with other individuals, like they'll be like, that guy sloughed my hit. And it's like, there's a back shield, like it's like the nag here 1-on-1 where they're just like rapping and they're like hitting something and it's not a guard. And anyway, so it's kind of like, I just don't like that kind of like this, like, I don't know. The fact that it's like kind of seems almost like a little unclean in those situations. But that's just a personal preference, people really need to understand that if they're rapping and there's a back shield, then they're hitting the back shield and not the person. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, for sure. What's next on the agenda, boys?
So we're looking at Dozer's tournament mindset, the mind behind the machine. Because Dozer, I think out of pretty much everyone that I can think of, Airden, you're getting pretty close to second. You might have the most red-related wins in tournaments.
yeah, so honestly, like this is gonna sound weird, but I actually don't like solo tournaments that much. That's why I do them, truly, because like I don't like them, so it's kind of like when I feel like I'm not doing something because it's causing me some kind of like internal rift, I try to like pursue that thing, I guess, like to, help with that. I love team tournaments. Like team tournaments, I have so much fun with. And I think it's probably because the responsibility for a loss is kind of like spread amongst the team, whenever you lose and anything else, it's you, it's all on you. It's like some people can like, try to distribute that by being like, oh, he cheated me, but I mean, at the end of the day, it's still like, it's you, if you throw a shot to where if they slough it, they kill you, then I mean, it's still, you need to play safer, I think, in a tournament, environment, I guess. And that's, when it comes to tournaments, that's how I really feel. Like I'm trying not to throw any shots that like if this screws up, then I'm gonna die, because like yeah, it might look, be cool, it might work awesome, whatever, but a lot of the time, you know, if it hits right on the edge, of somebody, they might call an arm on it and just kill you, and it's like, so I try to always stay away from what I call like one trick shots, like one trick pony shots, where your guard is just completely like non-existent if it, after you throw it. Um, you know, and so, it's kind of like I look at it like I normally start out most fights to where I'm going to be throwing like pick shots, basically, where it's like really trying to like set up low risk, low reward, shots to see if somebody can block those. Because if they can't block those, I don't have to do any more work. Like they didn't do their homework, so I get to go the next round. Basically, that's how I feel
It's
about it.
safe.
Yeah, if you try to throw some crazy crap, and I learned this a long time ago, if you try to throw some crazy crap on a noob, they're gonna just panic swing and hit you.
Are they gonna
Like
fucking Dark Souls roll uppercut into the
Yeah.
air, backflip, and then hit you across the chest?
And so, normally, especially if I'm fighting somebody I've never seen before, I'm really trying to just get out of there unscathed, not like take any like unnecessary risks. Once you start to get the higher tier fighters, you kind of have to back off that a little bit because it's like if you just try to throw a pick shot on somebody like, Rage, they're gonna block it and blitz you, and it's like, and if you're too far forward into the momentum of that fight and you can't disengage off that, he'll kill you. Just you're done. Like no amount of like counter repose or anything can really stop you from getting comboed by a power lefty. It's just like so. And so that's really, at lower tiers, I just trying to get through it by not being fancy. Just the basics. And then at the higher tiers, I really try to play to the strengths that I feel that my enemy will have issues dealing with. If it's a real twitchy fighter like Luster, I'm gonna just literally sit at like threat range and just be like hitting the panic button on him, like trying to get him to jump, and it's the same with Dak. Dak's the same way, is where I'm just trying to like kind of like threat saturate to where either they jump on me or they get like complacent and I can stab them, or take a swing at them. Because like if you try to engage them, they're just going to void you out. And like if you continue to chase them, they'll chop you up. And so it's like, and like there's variations between like all fighters, I would say. Like you really just need to see kind of like what their offensive style is and play to the strengths of that, like your style, like basically you versus that style. And that's like really my style in general. I try not to be locked into any like one static thing. Like, you know, some people say I'd be like a counter fighter, but you know, I always operate under the theory of swings first, often swings like last, and because red's an offensive style, you don't have any kind of static defense that you can really, fall back on. So you really want to make sure that, like, if you're in an engagement with another red user, that you're setting that pace and that they're not setting the pace. Because, if you're playing to their beat, they win the initiative, then you really need to make sure that they're chasing you into a trap. Because otherwise, you're going to be trying to like play block strike on their tone, and you'll just end up in a kind of a sticky situation.
100% agree on that.
Yeah, that noob foo is pretty good.
I'm telling you, don't fall into it. If you guys are in a tournament and you've never seen the person before, just fucking fight them simple.
Yeah.
If you try to, because I can tell you in your mind, you're like, you know what? If I pump fake them left, they'll pull their guard over and maybe it'll expose their forearm. No, you pump
Oh.
fake left and they backflip and hit you in the fucking shoulder, and
Yep.
you're like, what?
That's serious.
Nobody's brain says to backflip, but a noob's brain 100% does. So fight them simple. Hit them in the
Yeah.
leg. Back
Yeah.
off. Hit them in the forearm. Don't throw anything
Yeah.
crazy.
Always, like I said, always keep it simple. Especially if you don't know them. I mean, at least test the waters that way. And
Mhm.
like I said, if they haven't done their homework, then you're good. Like
Yeah.
it's like ever since I really adopted that, the like getting towards the final, like towards the upper brackets to where you're fighting people who know what they're doing. I haven't had nearly as much issue. Once I kind of like learned like, hey, don't be risky. So
Yeah, and I think a lot of people too don't really realize that in a red, like specifically like a tournament setting like red v red, the low risk shots can actually turn out to be pretty good, because if you're just going for like, low risk to me is like, hey, I'm not throwing those like really wide shots or really hard shots. They're like quick, like little forearm, trying to hit them like here, not
yep,
anywhere like
yep.
deeper, or trying to catch them on like the very end of a stab for a certain like reason.
Mhm.
Those kind of shots to me, they seem like, oh well, you're not going to get a huge thing out of it, but if you take somebody's arm in a red tournament, you should win it, like
Yep. Yeah.
hands
Yeah.
down, like you.
Yeah.
That's a big
Especially
advantage.
if you press, like if you hit
Right.
it and press, like
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like my goal is, if I ever hit somebody in the forearm and I took their arm, it's to just smack their weapon the opposite way of they're gonna want to swing it and just rush
Mhm.
in. It's like
Yeah.
Mhm.
worst case scenario, you get psi mode, but or get a limb or something, but you're still gonna kill them, or at least you fucking
Mhm.
should. So.
Yeah. The worst thing to do is if you snipe somebody's arm, like basically is allowing them to get that tip free to stab.
Yep.
Because like you can slash on me all day with one hand, I'll block it every time. If they have the ability to threat that stab as well, it's it's very likely that they'll get it, because they got nothing to lose. They're gonna go for broke, and it's like if they stab you while you're finishing them, then start over. So
Yep.
And like what you always say, if you get armed, don't wait and get the reset or whatever. Just keep
yeah,
going and
yeah. If you get armed, like don't you know
don't let that
try to
reset
finish
happen.
it then. You're
Mhm.
already like, if they hit you, then more than likely their guard is down for like that split second.
Mhm.
And a lot of the times when somebody hits, they kind of like in their head almost reset. Like they're like, oh, I got his arm, so now I'm going to like think about what I'm going to do now. And in that moment, you can stab the shit out of them.
Yep.
Because
Yeah,
they're not expecting it. They're
I was
expecting.
talking to Kano about that, about how some fighters will either keep going or they'll want to back up and try to reset.
Yeah, and
Make
I think
sure you
it's
keep
because
going.
like when we spar, we create an etiquette where it's like if you hit somebody once, you're like, "Are you dead?" And you
Yeah.
kind of like wait to see what they're gonna do. And I think it's almost like a built-in like internal etiquette of like, don't hit somebody more than once. And it's like, but if I hit somebody close to their arm, then I'm gonna hit them again to make sure they're dead.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the
Especially
good thing
tournaments.
too about like red on red specifically, is that you know it's not like single sword or sword and shield where it's like you get in the arm, you have to drop it. Like that's the good thing, is like you can still be a threat if somebody
Hmm.
hits you in the arm, because you just let go with one hand and you're still free to throw.
Mhm.
Hmm.
In other weapon types, it's not necessarily the case. So a lot of people forget, it's like if you get tagged, you can fucking go for broke from there. You still got momentum that you can use, instead of just kind of like backing up and like
Hmm.
letting them reset and kind of assess it. So
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, overall, like with tournaments in general, it's really just about just trying to make sure that both fighters are good with the fights. Like I'd rather reset all night than to have somebody feel like that they got cheated out of something. That's just like my personal preference, because like I like and it can go to the heralds, but I if both fighters don't know what's going on, like or whatever, then somebody's going to feel salty about it. So it's really
Mhm.
like that's always kind of been my like thought on like single competitor, because it's best 2 out of 3. So we're not, you can, tournaments aren't everything. They are something, but a best 2 out of 3 tournament, it's like kind of like Man with a Golden Gun. We're like going out there and like plow, like 2 out of 3, and then we're like, so it's not everything. It is something. It's not everything. So
The last Orc Wars, I think we had what 10 Simos in our fights.
yeah. I mean, exactly. Like it's it is very much a like
Mhm.
red is an offensive style,
Yep.
and it's like
It happens.
we're basically using lightsabers to where like if I hit you, you're dead. If you hit me,
Mhm.
I'm dead. So it's like it just there's not a lot of there's a lot of chances for just like getting killed just like out of a chump shot or something, or whatever. So in a 2 out of 3 format, you don't have enough you don't really have enough matches to really out like who would be the better red fighter in my opinion, in like that short of time. So
I'd be interested to start doing more Iron Mans for Red Sword. I think that'd be
yeah, like an
interesting
amp
to do
guard
that.
style.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah, I
would
just
like
ran
to
an
see
Amp Guard
that.
tournament a couple weeks ago, and that was a lot of fun. It made me think about doing that. Especially if like a big event, it could be fun having 2 or 3 pits, like if we did East Wind kind of thing, and just do an
I
Iron
mean,
Man that way.
I think that like in general, those kind of tournaments, to me, I like those better. I mean, like nowadays with like Winter War and stuff like that, man, there's so many people
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
entering them. Like it takes so fucking long to do stuff, and like again, like you want the best person to fight it. That proves the same
Yeah.
thing as somebody else. It's like this
20-minute
person is.
Iron Mans, top 8, go.
It's better than an hour per category
Yeah.
minimum to
Mhm.
weed out the rabble. And that sounds kind of shitty, but it's the fucking
Yeah.
truth. It's like
No, honestly, you kick out all the sluffers because they can't make enough runs.
Yep.
So, I find it to be a clean way to do it, especially if we have 3 pits, 4 pits going on.
Yeah.
Like you could do that.
I would like to see maybe some people try that moving into
Mhm.
the
There
next
says
tournament.
line politics.
Yeah. What about choose your line? We could do that. That the Warlord Sports version. That one's pretty neat too.
We got line politics now, man.
Yeah, yeah. Even in ends like the or every others, there's line politics. But anyways,
If you go into it knowing that you're going to be the winner, it doesn't matter what fucking line you go to.
That-
Believe
Mhm.
believe in
Fucking,
yourself.
my buddy Kano said it best. This was many years ago. He said in a very southern accent.
Here are you.
He said you should go into every fight expecting to win it and trying to win it.
Yeah,
And that
no,
is
I agree
something
with
that
that.
that I've always been like, yep, if you go into that fight thinking that you're going to lose or thinking that you're going to get pieced up or like doubt yourself, you've already fucking put yourself at a disadvantage. Not saying you're going to lose, but you put
No,
yourself at a disadvantage.
for sure. Yeah, I like speaking of that, I like to think about uh and this comes from gaming maybe, but like win cons, like what are they going to do to try to be like a win condition? So you're not like thinking about like losing, but you're thinking about things like not to do, and
Mhm.
I do this a lot, especially when I'm fighting upper tier sword and boards. I'm like, I'm not taking a step forward ever. I'm not taking a single step forward. I'll take sideways, I'll take steps backside, but I'm never going forward because the moment you step forward, they're going to step forward on a lunge and you're going to have to recoup all that like momentum and put it into some other direction. And Aiden is going to be like riding you down.
Yep.
You're going to, no.
Plus, you literally waste the length of your red. Like that's one thing that
Yeah.
I don't think a lot of people really get,
Mhm.
especially like the mid tier like red fighters. They go up to somebody and you'll see them kind of like pressing people really hard, like sword and boards and stuff. Like man, like your whole point is you're supposed to outrange them. Like you want to
Mhm.
give them no opportunity to hit you. If you take a step forward and they don't, you've already cut off like half of your sword. So
Yeah.
might as well use a fucking blue at that point.
Yeah.
So. Like nothing wrong
Yeah.
with like a little step to kind of like throw off the angle to the right or to the left, but like barreling into people, it's like
For
no
sure.
way.
With min reds, on your typical min red, fully choked, you're, and this is something I've always said, but a blue user basically, because you're matching from your top hand, your range, when you're two-handing a min red on a full choke, basically a blue user at a full extend is actually hitting you like right in the wrist.
Mhm.
So like if they're profiled out and you're doing just a a crossing chop, then they actually have enough distance to hit you in the wrist. And so like for all red users ever, realizing that like yeah, if you have a long sword that's great, but your top hand is always dictating how much range you have off of your body, is like a huge thing. And because people will get like they'll get like a red and they'll be like, man, this thing's great, it's 24 ounces, it's 64 inches, but they're having to like full choke it to get actually a good like balance point on it, like because you're trying to basically hold it to where you're having a good pivot position. And it'd be as if they all were using like a 56 basically at like a close grip, so those are things to always kind of think about
Yeah,
when
I
it comes to like range.
that's what I did. I was full choke 5 for the longest time. Then I went down to
Mhm.
55 at small choke,
Mhm.
and it's like I pick up a 5 and I'm just like, wow, this is like a 6 foot.
Yeah, yeah,
I was like, what is this? So
yeah,
I'm totally 100% changing your hand position can totally change how much length you have, and hey, really you should be fine with hands close together if you're using a round. With
yeah,
flats, I think having it full choke just because of the way you use a flat, I can see that more, but or half choke, it's just your preference.
yeah,
I think that right there, like those types of like that type of analysis on like red fighting is what separates the top from like everybody else. Like being able to understand like little concepts like that, like knowing that if you have, you're choked real far down, how much range you get,
Hmm.
like those little things, once you like learn how to integrate those into like fighting, like in a tournament, that makes a huge difference because you're like, cool, well, if I choke all the way down, I can hit them in the forearm from outside of their range, like if they're using
mhm,
like a min red. Like it's like
mhm,
cool. I
Hmm.
can throw a safe shot just by choking down. And knowing those kind of like things throughout different types of fights, it doesn't seem like much. It seems like just like hand placement, but that switch in range, it's kind of like a sword and border, going from like their left foot to the right foot. They
mhm,
gain like a couple inches of range, and knowing
mhm.
like how to put that into the fight, it separates people that don't from those that do, and you can be able to pull off a lot better shots in the end that actually get to your opponent, and they don't expect it, and they get caught off guard by it. So I think that it's cool that everybody seems to be starting to utilize that and how they set up
Yeah,
fights. 'Cause I switch grips all the fucking time. Like
yeah,
I love.
and like the close grip for me especially allows for a guard extend wing, like basically
We lose him
Oh, we
again.
lost him. Yep.
ever it's much hard it's like much harder to do basically than and this forearm showing, whereas like here you're basically your guard's all the way out here, and so
Hmm.
like you can, if somebody goes to throw like a cross on you, you can basically riposte that cross with a cross, and if you have the proper guard, you'll block their shot. And if they don't have the proper guard, again, they haven't done their homework, you'll hit them in the forearm. And it's like, there's so many tournaments where like, I mean, they me out of range, they're reaching, so they're like kind of dipped in, and I just throw that shot, and it's like they went your arm.
Yeah, 6 inches in a fucking fight matters. Like
Mm.
anybody that's used red at a high level can tell you, it's like if you've got a min red and you're going up against somebody with like a 5.5, if they know what they're doing, it is a very difficult game to try to like get past that initial
Hmm.
foot extra. Like even 6 inches. It doesn't seem like a lot that it would need it in a tournament, but like it fucking matters. Like
Oh yeah.
you gotta have that extra 6 inches.
And then you go out with a 65 and you're choked back. So now you're a 6 foot.
Every inch counts.
Yeah.
Every inch counts.
Every inch
There
counts.
there is a certain threshold there though. Like for me especially, that like you get to a certain range to where you like your sword can't clear like under you anymore. And it's like right around that like 65-ish range, which is I think kind of great that we use that as like a benchmark. And it also depends on how tall you are. But like there's a certain range to where you can no longer clear your sword kind of underneath you, like you can
Hmm.
only go over the top. And that like is really, in my opinion, what kind of separates like a pole and a pole sword from like a shorter red, because you get bound up if you're trying to like come up underneath, like directly underneath you, rather than like, so if they're like pressed on you, you can't like stay to one side, or the other, you know.
Good point. Nothing's more frustrating than getting jumbled up on like a. I always find it mainly with like sword and borders rushing in. You know,
Yeah.
they'll
Mhm.
come running in. If you've got like a little too long of a red, or you're not really used to kind of like using it that length, they'll run in, and when you're trying to go to like a grave digger, you'll catch
Mhm.
them like either on the top of their foot, or you'll just kind of hit their shield, and then you get hung up in it, and you get
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and you're Dunsky.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's it. Like you get. I always tell people if they rush in on you, you pretty much get one shot, and it's like you better
Mhm.
fucking pick the good one.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can
Also,
chop, but
a secret: if somebody's wearing a shoulder buckler and they don't have any chest armor, just stab them as a sword and board user.
Yep.
I'm here to try to like bring down the shoulder buckler meta.
See, I always
That's the secret.
forget about, like, I can check people too with the shield.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like when people would charge me, I'm always forget
Just like-
it, and then when I think about doing it, no one does it anymore.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But if you're a sword and board user and you're rushing a dude with a shoulder buckler and a red, and he's doing this chop over onto your offensive arm, just stab him. And it's like Aiden does it every now and then to me, but it's the hardest thing to block for, like, because I'm expecting your arm to come out for you to do a wrap, you know, or whatever. And if you just like directly stab me in the chest, the buckler doesn't cover there, and my guard is up here because I'm expecting you to swing on me. And so it's like pretty much a catcher's mitt, like right here, and you just stab me. But if I'm wearing chest armor, then, you know, like in a tournament, then get bed, you know, I can't help you. Hope you
No,
got
for the
team-
for the longest time, I remember like in War God, because I'm much smaller than you, Dozer. Like people would just push me over. That was the. That's how you beat Buckler.
like a true knight, just like stab you through the, you know, void in your, you know, groin.
I can
Oh,
tell
we
you like
lost him.
I don't know, we lost them. I could like a tournament fucking setting though. Like, oh man, the go to if like I was armored up and somebody comes rushing in, I'm like fucking body check them. You got your whole fucking guard out in front, and you can just fucking boom. But and then they won't do that again.
Yeah.
Hey, guess
Yeah.
what? It's 9 o'clock.
Welcome
Discord
back.
dies. I don't
That's weird.
It wouldn't be an
It's real
episode
weird.
without Fox disconnecting. Let's be honest.
No. I think at least it was kind of short this time.
Yeah.
But yeah. So anyway, that like I said, you know, that's kind of my overall, I guess, like thoughts on team tournaments. Obviously, how do we beat Suns? That's pretty much my.
Mm-hmm.
Did we lose somebody else? I heard like
No.
a thing drop.
No,
Okay, we're
no,
good.
we're all here.
There's
Cool.
no video. How you doing?
Curse upon your houses.
One
so
day.
what? So I guess our last question before we start doing some videos is, what does the future Dozer look like?
So, during COVID, especially, I really tried to like use that time to kind of like reprogram a lot of my shot. Like a lot of my shots were carryovers from, you know, previous years, and this happens a lot with, I think, most fighters. If like when we're first learning, we find something that works. Okay, we don't know why it works, but it works. So it makes us feel good every time we do it. Might not be the right way, you know. I think of like all the old like blue users like blowing their elbows out, like doing high cross meta. Like we don't know why it works, but it works, makes us feel good. So we implement it and ingrain it, and then we build kind of like the rest of our fighting off of that. And that was me for a long time with like blocking, and like, you know, back in the old days you could like block, and like you said earlier, Aridin, like I used to just practice blocking. And it's because like when I feel comfortable about like surviving, then I feel comfortable like about the fight. And so over this, like, you know, COVID and whatnot, for one, I've been working on movement, and that's been like since 2016. In 2016, I realized how important, like I've always known that movement's important, but I like where it ended up on my pyramid basically is at the top now. Because like positioning is really everything. Like the analogy I like to use, if somebody's directly behind you with a dagger, you can't defend against them if you start the fight there, right? They'll just stab you in the back, right? So, but building up from that, if you're able to like kind of outposition somebody by via your footwork and movement, then you're always going to be fighting at an advantage compared to them. Because like our game is really a game of angles, and like I talk about outside and inside a lot, and I use kind of like fencer's analogy to that. Like outside's going to be whatever your top hand side is, basically, and that's going to be for a righty, that's going to be your right hand, top hand, and your inside's going to be everything to your left hand. Okay, and so some people use the analogy of inside, like inside your blade, but when I'm talking about the inside and outside, I'm talking about outside's here, inside's here. Okay, and so like if you're talking about an outside block, and this is why the cross works so good, is like basically if I'm in a right foot forward, outside block is my weakest block. I can only torso to here. If you get over that angle, then you're gonna hit my arm, right? I can motorcycle out maybe a little bit. And so I built a lot of my like I guess thoughts and styles and everything else kind of on that concept. But then realizing that like if you don't move correctly, then somebody just gets over your guard, and you're done. So from 2016 till now, I think I've logged probably about 1,300 hours of footwork drills, and that's like I basically just implemented my 30 minutes of my workout is going to be cardio footwork. And so like that really like improved a lot of my fighting. But that only got so far because I was still doing block strike, and a lot of that comes from implementing like single blue fighting, trying to like learn from some of that from foam fighting and implement that into red. And so I was always looking at like block strike, like block strike, block strike. And so I've really started to try to implement blocking and striking at the same time. So if you're swinging at me on a cross, like I said earlier, I'm throwing that crossing block strike. But that one's easy. But like trying to implement that into everything to where you never block, you're always swinging with the proper strike is very hard to like uningrain and then like relearn. And so that's that and ascending cuts because I like all of DAG is chops. We're all chop, 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 upper quadrants. No one throws anything, and only the ladies actually use that card, like a basically ox guard or whatever, and they use it because it completely obliterates our entire like offensive style on them as righties. So like, really trying to like get those muscles to where they work in any kind of speed, kind of my goal towards like the future. And what I've really been trying to work on, over the past like I'd say like, you know, 2 years, I guess. That and implementing like cross guards, because I used to always make fun of cross guards, but that was mainly just because the people that liked cross guards didn't like to actually fight in any other way, Like they were like they're completely just trying to copy paste HEMA, and you can't. Our game's too like there's too much blade bounce, there's too much, chop chop. You can take some things, you can't take it all, And but I also think it like because I was so against that, I also blinded myself to some of the like practical utility. And now that our weapons are like light enough, and really I don't think carbons. I think they changed our game, but like it was more about figuring out the balance point because like we balanced our weapons so poorly back in the day, and it was like so we thought like
5 pound
a lighter
swords.
weapon. Go ahead.
5 pound swords. Let's go.
Yeah, but like we were like, oh, we want something lighter, and so we would take out all the weight, and we'd be like, oh, it's 24 ounces now, and it's like balanced toward the foam, like it's like midway down the blade, you swing it like breaks your wrist because of the leverage. So
Yeah, the weight hasn't changed. It's like how we've been able to fix the counterbalance on it to where it's like closer toward the handle or yeah, through your grip. So
yeah,
yep, spot on.
What
But-
uh what Bell said in chat, boxing drills definitely was one of the primary ones that I always did. And like learning that like when you go to lunge at somebody, so you're like pushing with your back foot as well as like stepping. You're not just like stepping. You're pushing and like pushing yourself off, and really like practicing that and trying to incorporate that has been really helpful.
Work is
And
a big deal.
and you can practice footwork at any time of the day. You can walk to the kitchen to get a glass of orange juice, and you can footwork the whole way there.
I like that. Like you just gotta play the floor's lava. Just
Yeah.
pretend the floor's lava and just be jumping around on shit.
Or just move around your fridge. Square with the fridge.
Mhm.
That's footwork is a pretty big aspect of just like foam fighting in general. And
Mhm.
it's like I'm very darty, but I have shit footwork, and I know that. And that's something that I'm trying to work on too. But it's like being able to. I've never heard it explained kind of how Dozer explained it with like the outside guard. Because I'm very much against the cross, not because I don't think it's a good shot, but because I suck at it and I know that I suck at it. And so hearing the footwork kind of be explained with it,
Mhm.
it starts to make a little bit more sense because that is going to be the hardest thing for you to go to catch a guard for. So it technically is a good shot. Without the footwork for it, all of a sudden, if you throw a cross and you don't have good footwork, you just expose your fucking hip and get caught in the hip whenever they riposte it.
Mhm.
If you've got good footwork, you're stepping, obviously away from it, and you're getting a better angle, and you're kind of dictating what their angle looks like. So
Mhm.
it's cool to have it explained in that way. Gives me
Yeah,
stuff
Yeah.
to work on too.
yeah. I mean, I've been trying to just break myself of being like throwing that cross with my right foot forward, and I'm not like I still do it all the damn time, and it like we'll probably watch some videos today, and I'm just gonna be like, why, why? And but that's like one of the things, we always have like our things that we're working on, like even if we've been fighting for, however many years now, like you're there's always just like bugs in the system, because it's
Mhm.
like it's not like you get to like get better and then you still have all that what you built, you know the house on your foundations, and so to like and it's impossible to like just like lift the house up and change those foundations. You have to like rebuild the whole damn thing. And so and it's hard to do because once you try to make those changes, you get killed, so it's like every step of the way of trying to fix these bad habits is somebody like who you normally can beat is now beating you, and you're just like,
This doesn't work.
Yeah.
I just got
Mhm.
high cross, man.
I hate this.
It's just it can be frustrating to be like, oh man, this isn't working. It's like, nah, you just got to do it like a bajillion times, and then all of a
Mhm.
sudden it's like, oh, this is better.
Yeah, it's all about building the habits, and that like that's really the most important thing I'd say for anyone practicing. Don't just go spar to win. Go to spar to like work on something specific, and you might lose, but you'll be like glad that you like worked on something versus just going out there to try beat your local field.
Yeah.
I literally just told the guy that we had like a little local practice in Jacksonville. We hadn't been having them. And I said those same fucking words to the guy. I was just like, it's not about winning at the practice. Like find something that you want to work on and do it. And if you get the shit kicked out of you, who cares? Like doesn't
Yeah,
matter if you lose a spar to some noob or something, like work on something that you know that it's gonna improve your game.
for sure.
Take your losses, take your hits, and then, hopefully after a month of doing that kind of stuff, it'll click
Yeah,
and you start all of a sudden you just start shitting all over people trying to kill
yeah.
them, going, oh cool, I can step left, step right, I can throw from the cross angle, I know how to work this stuff, my feet are going where they need to
Mhm.
go, and it's all from just kind of getting beat a little bit.
Yeah, it's going to feel much better to take a loss at your local practice field and then beating some really good fighter than trashing your local field and never being able to beat a good fighter.
Mhm.
Right. Yeah. I think a lot of people let their ego of like how they're perceived in like the foam world kind of dictate how how they grow. You know, like
Mhm.
they don't want to do like a lot of big like fights in front of people, or they don't want to spar and try new shit because they don't want everybody to see them lose. I'm like, man, who cares? Like, go win the tournament. Like,
Seriously.
go lose the spar and then go win the tournament, and then everybody's gonna look at you and go, oh man, that person's awesome. But you can't do that if you never try to like deal with some failure. Like, I think
Mhm.
that's how you grow.
Yeah, for sure. You actually, yeah, you literally like you won't grow unless you put yourself like out there to grow. You gotta get the sunlight, man. You gotta put yourself. It might suck at first, but I'm part of it. Like, I mean, there's plenty of videos out there online where I'm just like, take them down, like take them down, like it's not
They're gonna
me.
think I'm trash.
What was I doing?
I used to fucking think that any tournament that I went in, I was like, just don't get knocked out in the first round. Everybody will think you're shit. And then one day I woke up, I was like, who? Nobody fucking remembers shit
Yeah, I
anymore.
was
They
like,
don't know who the fuck lost it. They remember who
yeah,
won it, but they don't
Yeah.
give
yeah,
a fuck who
exactly.
lost it. Go
I've
fight.
always said
Mhm.
that too. Like no one remembers who was in there to lose.
No,
It's like you remember because it's you, but everyone
right?
else they don't give a
Mhm.
fuck. Like,
No, they don't give a shit. And
yeah,
so, yeah, I used to like and a lot of people suffer from that in like tournaments. They get real bad anxiety. They're like, oh man, I just don't want to look like I suck. And it's
yeah.
like, man, who cares? Like,
I get
go
anxiety
win.
for sure,
I do
for
too,
sure.
Mhm.
but it's like at the end of the day, nobody really cares. Just go
Yeah,
fight and get better.
Yeah.
I
If you win, you win. If you don't, you learn something.
I get
Mhm.
anxiety until I tap swords. For whatever reason, it like
Yep.
goes away. I tap swords, goes away. But I don't really get anxiety for team tournaments. I get more like coach syndrome. Like we gotta win this. Like
Yeah.
like Daddy Doze
I'm
comes
actually
out.
opposite.
Mhm.
I feel like I get more anxiety from team because I think my
Uh,
biggest deal is I don't want to mess up and be a weakling.
yeah, don't want to let him down.
Yeah,
Well,
Blow off your
yeah,
shots.
I could definitely see
but
that.
yeah, blow off the shots.
Come on, people do it all the time, right?
Yeah, I think everyone like I think I think it does favors to the community when you realize how much of the high tier fighters who've done countless tournaments feel anxious before they
Mhm.
do a tournament. And it only grows. Like really, like as you get more now, like renowned, it actually just kind of just grows. You learn just to deal with it better, I guess. But like, you know, uh, it's like you have more like I guess expectations of yourself to do better.
Mhm.
The longer you've been fighting. And I think that's really a big kicker of it. It's like I've been fighting for 10 years and taught red class has like all this expectation and newbie knocks you out in round 2 and you're just like
Yeah, I mean, like I'm still gonna get anxious, like, and I'm still gonna be like, just don't get knocked out in the first round by some fucking nobody that doesn't know what they're
Mhm.
doing. Everybody's gonna make fun of you, and at the end of the day, nobody cares. Like,
yep,
they don't give a shit. They're gonna go party and drink and throw up in their tent
yeah,
at night, and they're
yeah,
not gonna really care.
yeah. Most of the people in the crowd, their eyes are like crossed. They're like,
Like,
like
all right, anybody in the chat who won fucking Sword and Board 6 Winter Wars ago? Go ahead, you got 20
Yeah.
seconds. Nobody fucking
Was that
knows.
me?
Yeah. At...
Yeah, it could have been.
2014 or 15?
I argue Bell.
Yeah.
See, the only person that knows is the one that fucking won it.
Fair. As Sir Talon put it, just don't be a highlight reel.
Yep.
That's fair.
Stay away from from
Uh,
Comtar LARP from
Don't
Dire.
get fucking don't get stunted on.
Yep. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Or you call light on that shit. You get stunted on that shit was light
I
and
feel
it hit you in the
nothing.
head. He's like, man, he spun around and hit you in the back. Nah, man, that was light. You didn't feel nothing.
Yeah.
That's great.
So we're still we never really talked about Dozer's future.
Was my future.
Yeah.
Like
There's a-
so like honestly, I'm gonna just continue to try to improve until I guess my arms fall off. Like, I don't really like, I'm what 34 now, I guess. But I don't feel, like I feel great. Um, I will say all the 100 hours of footwork drills has made my feet fucking like a little bit unhappy, but like overall, I don't feel like I'm slowing down any. It's kind of like I don't have a whole lot of fighting near me, but that's really, I mean, as I said before, that's really no different than it's, has been really. So, I mean, I think you can learn a lot, especially after you've gotten experience in the game. You can work on yourself with drills and whatnot, and they probably do you better than like say like go out and spar local people. You really have to put in after a certain point. You really have to put in time to like get over the plateau. You know.
I agree. What's next, boys?
It's video time.
Woo!
Vidya.
Vidya.
It's time for the vidges. Sir Damon, set us up. Get us.
Oh
get us
no,
on.
I'm losing reception.
We only pulled videos of you losing. That's all we
Good.
pulled.
That's right.
Just how it should be.
All right. Hold on, I lost it. There you go.
Where's my glasses? I don't have my glasses.
No, my glasses.
Blind samurai.
I don't like these glasses. You look like a nerd.
Nerd.
I have 4 eyes.
4 eyes.
I don't have a choice.
There's always a choice.
Don't need to be able to see, man. Just like echolocate that shit.
Yeah.
That was me echolocating. Look at those massive fucking biceps, though. Can we talk about that for just a second? Like,
Leg.
So, sorry.
Yeah, Damon spelled Dozer's name wrong.
Did I?
Yeah, you gotta do 2 Z's, man. 2 Z's.
Oh man, let me fix that.
That's
that.
an inside
Is there-
joke. Don't
yeah,
do it.
Lustr is
I was about
not
to be like, what?
Dozer.
Don't do it.
oh, I thought that was like real, and I was like,
I
oh,
know.
shit.
I was like, what? All right.
So we used to play WoW with a guy that like was named Dozer, and he spelled it with 2 Z's, and Dak used to just spell it with 2 Z's because of that. It became a meme. So this is me and Luster fighting, and Luster's actually using a 60 here, which I think this was like post-COVID. And this is really kind of like what I would say like me trying to work on like ascending cuts. Unfortunately, I don't have a lot of video of me fighting because the only video I have is me and Rohan fighting in my driveway, and it's dark. So, I really haven't been able to. This past year has been nuts for me, like making it out to things, with work being kind of crazy. So, and then at this most recent event, I had nose surgery, so I wasn't able to even get any spars in. So,
But Orc Wars. That's where it's at.
I'm excited. And so, like I said before, almost all these fights are probably going to really be just me trying to get hit in the head by Lister. That's what happened there. But no,
Head is a
I'm
valid block. It's a valid
Yeah.
block.
I'm almost always going to be trying to just like get him to like spring, because if you really push the engagement, he'll it'll be bad for baby kind of thing. You can probably just hit fast forward for like just hit the forward key. I didn't really edit these for this video. There you go.
Kind of curious to see how you analyze like the initial like setup. So like whenever you guys tap swords and you go like what are some things that you're looking for in like how Luster's like setting up? Like what are you analyzing from him?
And so like by the way, Luster has this thing where he's always trying to get a leg cast on me. So a lot of the time you'll see him throw a leg cast and we'll kind of laugh. Because like I'm keeping my guard basically to where my sword tips kind of low when we're at these like what I call like long range and like encounters. And as he gets closer, my sword will typically drift up. and to cover the guards that I don't cover quadrants that can't get hit in, I guess is kind of the theory of that. And so like when I'm first starting out, my tip's going to kind of be and towards the middle, and that's to kind of like protect against stabs and casts. And then as we start to kind of get into like a yellow range, my tip will start to drift up a little bit, but I'm always trying to keep it out there. One, because your opponent has to deal with it, like, and that was a really good stab actually by
It
Lester.
was, yeah.
But that's also what I call a one-off. Like, I mean, it's great. Like, it was very stylistic and it's good. But like, if he misses that, like, it's bad news. So like, it's a great shot, But like, risky. It's high risk, high reward, and that's what the charter is all about. So
It's good that I mean, we kind of preach on keeping your fucking tip down.
Mhm.
And that's something that you can notice, like if you watch when Dozer like sets up, I can almost guarantee you that tip is going to be pointed at the opponent. It's not going to be straight up in the air. It's because it gives you just way more options. You're threatening with the length of your sword. You're not,
Yes.
you're not giving them anything. Like the worst thing you could do is if you have a range advantage, is pull the fucking tip up and go, okay, cool. Now you're not threatened at all by a stab.
Yeah. And I really try to use it to dictate like what lanes they have to really like play on. Um, you know, that's really one of the main purposes of like me putting my tip out in the like coming up from like say being towards the ground towards this like more of a upwards neutral.
Yeah.
Right there, I think we just kind of traded shit. I don't even know. But like I said, as far as he goes, and as far as Dak, and like any fighters that are really playing, I call it ganking. You know, Luster is a gank fighter where he's trying to fight on a term to where you're basically like with your pants down. Like he's not trying to blade trade you. He's not trying to like snipe trade you. He's just trying to get into your biscuits and basically, steal them or not play in the biscuits at all. It's very like boom and zoom, And so like any fighter like that, I'm always just trying to like try to get them to jump, and just really try to like sit in a range that's like threatening to where they kind of like get overly saturated with that threat to where they get either complacent or they jump on me.
God, those
I like to
stabs.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good sense. That's I like to describe them like a train. It's like if you let the train keep rolling in your direction and you don't do anything to derail it, it's very hard to stop it once it's moving. And so it seems like you just kind of keep it. You're looking for those opportunities to derail the train before it gets moving.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I like describe like Luster and like Vorn. They're very much like very hyper aggressive. They like to get in on you and eat your fucking biscuits.
Yeah.
So highly mobile.
Yeah. And Luster, he'll do like a few different like lunging, like he'll switch feet sometimes to where he can really do like a heavy lunge.
Yeah.
And I those are the kind of opportunities I try to like look forward to like set up my own like kind of like indirect, like I'm always trying to do like kind of an indirect offense to where like catching your opponent kind of in between like gear shifts. So that's pretty much always what I'm doing when I'm sitting in like what I would say called the yellow range, is where I'm trying to like wait for them to kind of be like, okay, he's not gonna attack me, and they like try to switch to something else, and then I try to attack then.
I think one thing that you said earlier that I'll try to describe for those who don't know. It's like like you said that you keep your guard kind of low because you don't need to guard things that there's no chance of hitting. And
Yes.
like what he means by that is if you look at him here, there's really no way that Luster can get to him quickly enough and hit him in the upper quadrant. So it's kind of safe for him to just keep it low until he moves in on him, and then he'll bring it up if you'll watch him video.
Yeah. It also doesn't show anything. One thing about like
Right.
sitting in fools is that like they don't like look at your guard.
Yep.
So it like kind of is a little bit of like a almost like a hidden stance. That was bad there.
I
But
I I almost always read those like when your guard's low. I'm like, oh man, that's a stab coming.
Yeah. Well, I mean, then that's your main like, and the grid. Like another thing about it being low like that is that like, if your stab comes from like low, there's less of their like shit in the way if they're holding their tip up. You know, like they have to like critical block it with their hands, or like, you know, you have to miss, which
Mhm.
less likely. So there's some nice dogs in the background.
Yeah, like you can see here, like it looks like Luster maybe a little closer starting than he was before, and you'll notice that your guard is a little higher.
Yeah,
Um,
for sure.
and you just
Go
did
get him.
what we talked about earlier. You were
Yep.
like, "Hey, I got hit in the arm. Fucking press it." Like, didn't
Yeah.
give him a
Mhm.
chance to reset.
Yeah. And I mean, he got me too. You know, it's a
Yeah.
Simo, but like, it's better than like trying to like arm. You know, whatever. Uh, the sword I'm using there is really, really well balanced. The 60 I've had forever, but it's the balance on it is really, really good for stabbing, and you know, honestly, like with reds, stabbing is always going to be one of your main fortes, especially red swords. And historically, it was the same way, unless it was a katana. You know, stabs. You know,
Mhm.
But I
stabs are
thought that
good.
was the best weapon ever.
Yeah.
A katana,
Good time.
almost second to the scythe,
Oh.
So
the
that shot
Vor's
right
whip.
there, like I had my right foot forward and I blocked on my right side, which again is like one of the habits I'm trying to break of myself, which I in this video I hadn't, you know, it's just one of my pet peeves of myself, you know, and it's all like holdbacks from the old days. And sometimes you have, you know, you kind of have to, it's just a panic guard. But overall, I'm actually trying to get rid of most of the block trades. And that's primarily what you're going to see in this video is just block trades.
So you wanting to step left whenever you block on the whenever you're catching that block on the right? Is
Yeah.
that what you're? Okay,
I want
yeah.
my left foot forward and my hips to come
Hip
around.
out of the way. Yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
that makes sense. Yeah.
Something
For those.
else. Good.
Sorry,
No,
you
you.
go. You're more beautiful. Go.
Who's got the
And
bigger
same with the
biceps?
same with catching that watershed right there. It's almost always better to just unwind it into the same shot side rather than bringing it all the way around, doing what I did there and just doing nothing. One of the things I really always preach is no free lunges. Like, don't just block a shot. We're not sword and board here. You know, like
Hmm.
if somebody swings on you, do something with it.
Yeah, that's a good point. I was gonna add to it, just kind of explaining what we mean when we say I'm gonna treat everybody in the chat like basic level fighters, even though there's plenty of good ones in there. It's just like try to explain the stuff with like the hip, like bringing that hip. If you block right and your right foot is forward, then your hip is also forward, and that means that it's easier for your opponent to tag it. So what Dozer's wanting to do is shift his left foot up so that it pulls his hip back and away from that block. So like technically the best block you could do would be to read it, block it, and then step left as you're blocking it and then return. You're closer to their body because your left foot is forward. Your hip is out of their way. It's a better angle to block it, and it's just overall it's just a better like riposte from it. So
Mhm. Yeah, and it's basically like if you're right in front of your left foot, it's like try to swing your right arm all the way back. You end up in like a spot that's kind of like way far forward than if your left foot was forward in the same position. You know, and I've always like thought of it like, you know, and again, video gamer, like if you have like a shield, you know, like with a red, it goes from
Mhm.
as far as you can go from this side to as far as you can go from this side. And you can shift that like shield based on where your feet are. And those are going to be the better blocks that you catch. And they also changes basically your profiling against stabs, which with one-handed stabs is always going to be from your opponent's bottom hand. So you want to be like to where you deflect that. And you know, it's just kind of maybe a little more advanced, but you know, things I always try to think about when I'm thinking about like how I'm going to fight. Like when I'm at long range, I'm pretty much always profiling against a long one-handed stab. As I get closer, I try to profile myself against slashes, like the harder to block slashes, which are the outside. Again, there's things I want to do. I don't always do them.
the method behind the madness. No, that's good stuff. I mean, like watching like feet and hips, like that's the thing that I think a lot of like high end red fighters are doing. Like understanding what's what somebody's doing based on their hips and their feet can open up a lot of opportunities for attack and defense.
Mhm.
Being able to like see how they're kind of moving, it makes a difference. I usually
Yeah,
watch when people pick their foot up. When that foot comes up to come toward to me, I usually am just like, all right, cool. What's open because you can't change your direction while that foot is up and moving towards me. So little things like keeping eyes on that have always kind of helped me do it for stabs mainly.
that the reason we're laughing there is that he tried to hit me in the feet, like legs again, and I just hit him in the shoulder. So
Let's fuck him. That's why.
that's actually what I was saying earlier when you were talking about hitting people in the legs. That like, I love it when people go low on me when I'm fighting red. Like because like all I have to do is just drop my sword and I like hit them.
I have an example of a tournament I fought you. It was at Ragnarok, maybe the following year. Me and you fought, and I don't think me and you sparred a whole lot. And I've talked about this before. I'm just like,
I
I
don't
don't
know
want
if we've
this.
ever really sparred a whole lot.
I don't want you to fucking know what crazy shit I'm trying to do to beat you. You see it in the tournament. But I remember it was like I threw like a cast, and it was just like every time I would do it, I was like, I can get a leg, but I pay for it with the body, and it's not
Yeah.
a trade. That's not a good trade. Like no matter what, it's like cool. You get the leg, great. You're still gonna get chopped in the shoulder. So
I mean, and I will trade a leg for an arm every day of the week.
all day, yeah,
Every day
all
of the
day.
week. As long as we're somewhat near the same length of red, every day of the week, I'm trading a leg for an arm.
Absolutely.
Because good luck hitting me with that arm, like while you're armed. Like,
Yeah.
just good luck.
Yep. 100%.
So I pretty much always, whenever my right foot's forward, I want to do like if I do a chop to that side and I'm under their blade, I'm gonna want to watershed to that side. Don't always do it, but it's what I want to do. And basically from there you can then unwind into a swing into that side, which like if their blade is basically still over your blade, then you'll actually hit them right in the shoulder. But I don't always do it. Half the time I don't swing out of watersheds. I don't know why. Just bad habits. Um, you know. You just hit forward, yeah.
It's always interesting watching like two very different like fighting styles like clash.
Mm-hmm.
It's just always cool to see like how because everybody's adjusting, like when you're fighting somebody, especially somebody that's like got a very different style, you're having to adjust on the fly to just kind of deal with it. Look at that.
He got the leg. Got
He
the leg.
He's like, did you get that? Did you get that?
Yeah.
But yeah, like what Lester said last time, like Ataru and Iron Green are complete opposites, and it's so difficult for both of our styles to fight each other.
He just threw it away there. Actually,
Yeah,
he
he
threw
did.
away the leg.
Yep.
But no, Lester's a incredibly good fighter. I'm very. I've always been very proud of him. I mean, he was a good red fighter when we met him, much less going under tutelage for however many years.
Come a long way.
5 or
Ascended.
6.
It's wild that's been that long. We're all growing up.
Yeah, I'm hitting my 10-year anniversary fighting this year.
Sorry,
Yeah.
with a little bit of explanation about extending the guard. He, I like to, tell people things they already know quite a bit. I think I was also changing up my hands here. So like my hands I used to hold like kind of like a straight baseball bat with like a little bit of a saber on the top. And I actually now move my wrists to where my wrists are like in line to
Oh.
where when I throw across, my hands are automatically motorcycling out that way. And then whenever I throw a normal shot, they're already like automatically motorcycling out that way. So that way I don't have to like think about motorcycling. And for anyone who doesn't know what motorcycling is, it's where you basically extend your wrist like that So because if my wrist is flat, someone throws a shot, you're gonna hit my wrist. Okay, even if I'm wearing like big gloves, it's very likely you're gonna hit my wrist. Motorcycle, you do that, block shot, got a lot of clearance here. So, and it also protects you from basically if they got a little bit better angle or they're throwing a rep, it protects you a lot from that. So
I'm fucking stealing that. I'm trying that shit next practice.
it takes a bit to get used to. It really does. But like if your hands are close, you can do it.
I know like sword and board, like way back in the day, like that was something that's like, being able to kind of move your hand out a little bit. It just gives you a little bit more block, but I didn't even think to do it with the red.
Yeah.
This is why we here.
We learning.
We learning. We all be learning.
So we got a question from Diz. Can you explain your thoughts behind your thought processes behind your development of your Blademaster house, and how you decided to build that up?
Yeah. So I mean, honestly, like, I'm a I'm a gamer. And like basically anything that I do, I want to really like understand and break it down like a Occam's razor, basically. I want to know why it works, and if it doesn't work, why it didn't work. I'm very, very bad at just doing something because it's been done that way. If somebody is like, "Oh, this is how we fight," I'm like, "Why? Why do we fight that way?" And I'll continue to dig into that until either I'm satisfied with an answer or I'm not satisfied with an answer. And if I'm not satisfied, then I'm going to try to figure out a way to do it myself. And I think that's really what all my fighting over however many years has boiled down to is me trying to like analyze myself and other fighters, figure out like basically what I would call like kind of like gaps in my own like either knowledge or practice or whatever else and fix those things. And that's really kind of like what my house has really been formed around is that like we can um, you can practice all you want all day, but if you don't practice the right things, then you really will just hit plateaus. You're just kind of like accentuating basically bad habits if you don't know what habits you should be working on. Now, the the difficult thing about our game is that red fighting really didn't have a lot of background, and especially back when I first started, YouTube really wasn't what it was today. You couldn't like come to, a video like this and like or get like lessons, It was like you got like Wolfpack openers and some like highlight videos of like Space
Yeah.
Jam, like people just slamming on each other. And none of them were red. None of them. They were all sword and board. What little you could find were like Avias talking about sword and board, you
Yep.
know.
I
And
remember those videos.
and I mean that's all we had. So like, it's kind of like the blind leading the blind to a degree. And I mean, luckily I was learned under Dak, who he was a very experienced fighter and he, really helped set the foundation of modern red for me at least in a lot of the southeast. And Vias was kind of like one of the people that, alongside of him, and then Exo and Ixis. And those were like the big four for me, like those were the people that I was like, how do they read,
100%.
But, you know, for me, just trying to really just kind of like hone down really from there and figure out what works and what doesn't. And just really try to like practice like, you know, those fundamentals. Um, it's kind of like the Bruce Lee thing to a degree where it's like 1,000 kicks, like it's like one kick practiced 1,000 times. I always think about that, like, really just trying to master the basics, and that like anything that you can hone in on that's like an inefficiency, um, you need to fix, and once you add all that shit, like all those inefficiency fixes, like even if it's like a small thing, they end up, paying out big.
I would say it. Pennies make dollars. A lot of little pennies, you'll eventually get a dollar. That's my advice for the day. Thanks, guys. I'll be here all night.
Yes.
That's your 2 cents.
That's
My
right.
2 cents in this money equation.
Yeah. But I think it's a hard pill to swallow whenever you're like first learning, you make huge jumps, and then eventually you get to that point to where it's like to go any higher, you really just have to really get, take a close look at yourself.
Can always learn more. Don't care.
There's
how good
another
you are.
video, I think, Damon, of me and Rook fighting. You want to throw that one on?
Is it the same channel?
No, it was on
No,
Discord.
it was in a link. Yeah.
The one you link Fox? Oh no, here it is. Here it is.
Yeah. I think the start of it's kind of like goofy, but anyway, it's I think it's a little bit more of a representation of like kind of like some of the switches I've done or tried to do, because like you might see a little bit more like inverted other than this weird little thing I'm doing at the start
No, that's
I
where
like it.
Rook picks my arm.
That's masterclass stuff. Y'all can't see that.
So yeah, so this is actually Rook's using a I think like a 60 here. And I'm using a 56. So he actually outranges me in this video, but again, he's probably going to be choked up to where like what I was talking about earlier doesn't really matter. And like another benefit you really get from using a shorter sword, that's like giving you basically the same blade length, is your one-handed, one-handed use.
Yep.
He was like, I'm dead.
Gotta have them ups.
Yeah, he is.
Oh, airborne me.
What's he gonna do with that? It's impossible to block that.
Yeah, sometimes I'll do that with like when I'm armed and they're armed or whatever. I'll just do the flying like cast, because if they cast you, then they miss. If they try to stab you, they stab you in the legs, and if they swing on you, then well, you're back to where you were anyway. So that there you go. That like is a perfect example of like one of the main things I've been working on. I switched my feet over on that previous shot, and then I basically guarded out on the lane. And when he I was waiting for a predictable return to the shot, and then I just threw the chop to that same lane. Now, Rook kind of knows a lot of that kind of cross games happening. So like most people you'll get with that shit, but Rook's a little bit more experienced when it comes to that kind of stuff. So, but it's like anything that you can get to where like my opponent can only do this out of one step, like because it's like I throw this shot, they get like their chance to do something. Otherwise, if they want to, do something other than the predictable return, then they have to take 2 steps. If they do 2 steps, you can hit them. So
Like the press immediately when you took the arm, it was like no reset. It's just
Yeah.
go. Yeah.
and I would have gotten stabbed there too. Like he would have
Yep.
actually probably
Mhm.
killed me if I had not pressed him as hard as I did. But because that I did get stabbed in the arm, but I was able to still kill him. Versus like if I had reset there, he would have actually just jabbed me right in the stomach. So and it really just simplifies the fight if you get in on him after you take something. It just although like Rage and Datsun will give you a nice little take home.
It ain't a red or dead if we're not calling Burning Duo, calling him out.
Yes. They're I've always enjoyed fighting Rage. He's me and him fought together and against each other for so long. Like just a lot of our fights end up in this weird little like stare down match, and then it's like, we'll both swing and then somebody will die. It's just like
Mhm.
very ends up that way. And I fight him different than I fight most lefties, just because like he's kind of used to the same song and dance. So sometimes you just gotta like be a little bit unorthodox to people who really know you. And and another problem with Rage is that I really like I told him everything. It's kind of like told him everything about everything I think. So it's like kind of like I've uploaded my thoughts into him. He's uploaded into me, and it's kind of just like ends up in this weird, stare down.
You got to mix it up, Since you taught him all that stuff, you got to do the noob thing and just like cut a backflip
That's
into
right,
Dark
man.
Souls roll.
That's
Never
right.
fucking see it coming to the shadow realm with him.
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out what Rook is trying to do there because he's got his sword like well apparently tag a hit real quick.
That was so I'm actually mad at myself because I threw a ascending wrap into his hip and just for some reason just stopped. Like I didn't throw it. Like I was just like, nah, I'm not gonna do that. And it was like there. It was like butter. And I'm just like, why even why throw the shot if you're not gonna throw the shot, Logan? Yeah, that's kind of like where I ended up on that one. That's why that's pretty funny. And so
I'll
this
notice.
is again, new guards I'm just kind of messing around with, like and trying to like turn into like unwinds basically. I mean, they're not really well practiced yet though. They're weird, but like I think there's potential overall potential to just throw the same stab out of it and get chopped in the stomach there. But that was kind of the main reason I really wanted to show this video. Is just really like trying to implement new swings to basically like complement the kits that we already have, and but it takes a lot of practice. Anything in our game, it's like you really have to be careful, like what you're trying to like, what works and what you're trying to like to work. I think.
Yeah. I mean, the only way the game continues to grow is to try new stuff that hasn't been done, and you won't know it
Yeah.
until you do it.
Yeah.
Again, not trying to hammer home a quote, but pennies make dollars. Gotta keep throwing that. Gotta keep putting the pennies in. Eventually, it'll pay
Yep.
off. You can get a quarter of a pack of bubble gum for $1. So just saying,
Can you?
a quarter, a half of a quarter.
Half
That's
a-
never mind. It's a fraction. Fuck that. I give up. We're not doing fractions. Carolina boys, we don't do those.
That's right.
So rewind that just a second. And again, guard extension on that one is just like, if I could like most red fighters, if you're throwing a shot right there, like I extended my guard and like basically riposted his shot. Now he fucking knocked the shit out of my hands, but like that's like one of the perfect examples of like like basically tempoed, and then right as I tempoed, he threw a shot, and then I threw basically a counter to that shot. And you can just turn this video off now. I think they spar from here, but anyway, that's kind of like one of the things that I really want all my shots to end up at, like, is to where like if I'm ever blocking, it's a block shot, like it's not like waiting to get hit and then swinging again. It's the block's integrated into a shot. So
We need to get Red or Dead merch that says no free lunches.
Yeah.
no free lunches
And
is
every
for sure.
and every inch counts.
Every inch counts.
Yep.
That's y'all got
Cheese
some
pizza.
marketing going on here, man.
Yeah, you got cheese pizza.
Well, I'd like never really thought of like the whole like no free lunches. It's kind of like
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't ever thought of it that way. Where it's like when you block a shot, you should be trying to get something out of it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Because I mean, really, it's like if you're catching the block most of the time, kind of close to your hands anyway, so you should have some attack, like
Yeah.
to be able to throw it. So
For sure, for sure. I mean, and our game's so fast now that like you really can't. For the longest time now, really, you haven't been able to just be able to block things. Like I can't
Mhm.
just like just stand there and block every attack. The moment you throw one feint, I'm like, oh no, and I die.
it takes so much to like register in your brain. Like that's another thing that like you'll see videos of like people talking shit about like foam fighting and stuff like, oh, if you do a backspin, you're gonna die. It's like, do you know how fast a shot is in like our game?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
like the average shot, it takes, I don't know the math behind it, but it takes so long to perceive that your opponent is doing something. And to be able to like register that stuff, you just can't do it. And so thinking that you could block every single shot from like a high end fighter is like you're gonna fuck up at some point.
Mhm.
So
Oh yeah, for sure.
makes sense to be like, cool, every time I block, try to get something.
Yeah.
Don't just stand there and eat it.
And so something else with that too, like if somebody throws a feint on you and you're doing what I said a minute ago, where you're throwing like basically a riposte, you actually just hit them. Like so like they go to throw it's kind of like new foo in like a full circle. Like they go to throw like a feint and you're going to throw the block to that feint, like the block riposte to that feint. And so they feint and then they're switching to their actual shot and you just hit them. And then they're just like and so feints are really only like bitten on by people who were expecting to even be able to block it to begin with, So it's like they really only work against like more experienced fighters in the first place.
Yep.
And so like you kind of almost like adapt a new food, like go full adapt a new foo like strategy to dealing with it, except you're actually throwing like just instead of training your block, you're training like a block strike that are like kind of integrated into one. So
It's good.
It's
like that.
definitely a process trying to get out of situating block into strike or strike into block or strike and strike into doing both at the same time.
yes, it's
It's so hard.
it's
I've been trying to do it.
very hard.
Yep.
Yes.
Go into tempo. You know, it's like
Yeah.
somebody swings, you block it, and then you
Mhm.
block, and then you return, and then they block it. But if you can
Yeah.
get out of that tempo, like
Mhm.
Yeah. There are no turns. There's no
Right, yeah.
turns.
Just
in
go.
It's like
RPG.
why we expect there to be turns, but there's no turns, you know?
Yep.
So it's like
Mhm.
you know, getting out of that habit though, ooh, it's hard. It almost feels like it just feels weird. But you like we were talking about earlier, like extending your guard out to catch a block. The difference between that and that is like the same defense basically. You haven't changed what you're blocking. So it's really just about and oh man, it's hard.
Mhm.
So we got about 15 minutes. You want to try to take some questions?
Sure.
I know Kit had one from last year. They asked generalized advice for a newbie.
Don't make bad habits. And by saying that, like, don't just like throw stuff on the wall to see what sticks. Like, try to find out like what some of the better basics are as far as footwork. I mean, really, I would almost say just focus 100% on footwork first. And I really think that's why a lot of people who started with sword and board kind of got a little bit of a benefit on becoming, good fighters, because a lot of sword and board really focuses heavy on like footwork initially. Whereas red, I feel like we used to just be like anchor down and fire, like.
Mhm.
And a lot of my old videos, like, man, I would anchor down so hard, like, I mean, and just like block, like I'm like on the ground, like basically like trying to like
Mhm.
block for all my life with my handles, so I can then like chop, and it was really detrimental to have to unlearn that, you know,
Was that back when you only wore one glove too?
pretty much. Yeah.
Those
Also,
days.
the other advice for a noob: wear gloves.
Wear gloves.
Where
Yeah.
goes?
Please.
Your
Please.
your hands will thank you.
Wear good shoes too.
Good shoes and knee pads.
Yeah, knee
And wear,
pads.
and wear clothes. Because you don't want
Yeah.
to be naked. Catch a charge.
You sure?
Maybe a cup.
Oh, yeah, go naked. Fuck it. 2023, this is your year.
Mhm.
Hey, they had those barbarians running around in loincloths for a while at Eastwood.
True. Yeah.
They used to make my sword covers all nasty.
Ugh.
Disgust me.
Or
They'd be,
even
they'd be like dirty and stuff, and you hit them, it's like you got this big grease smear on your thing.
Yeah.
It's like, oh man.
Anytime
Yeah.
I hit an orc, I'm just like,
Yeah.
ugh, disgusting orcs.
You gotta clean the blade.
Mhm.
Can we do something about this? Anybody else got questions? Drop them in
Yeah.
the chat. This is your
Also,
chance to
like, subscribe, put another
comment.
comment on. Yeah.
Yeah, notifications on. I think we were 2 away from 100 the other day. I don't know if we passed it or not.
We're real close.
Yep.
But if Chad doesn't know, Dozer is my Blade Master, and I'll be doing my final Blade Master trial at Orc Wars.
Yeah.
So
Which-
we'll all be there.
Which everyone in the chat should be at. Just saying.
Yep.
Yeah,
Mhm.
you really should.
Mhm.
Quite literally the best event, like, hand ever, really.
That's my favorite.
I'm being honest.
Hmm. Great weather, great fights.
No-
Eastwood's awesome.
No
Better
8 foots on
ingredients, better
Saturday.
pizza.
Yeah.
Yeah, you people might think they don't like that, but you fucking will. I promise you will. We got a question. How did Dozer get his arm so big?
That's the real questions.
I kind of wish they weren't like big.
Get out of here!
I'm not even
Uh.
kidding, man. Like, you only need a certain amount of strength to swing a red, And anything past that's just a bigger hitbox. Like
Yep.
look at Rook. Rook can like hide behind his sword. Like
Mm-hmm.
I'm like trying to, you know, it's just not good, man. You need like a big old handle, like just giant handle.
Yeah. Vic's got that same problem. He's massive too. There's a famous photo from years ago that Bacon had photoshopped your arms on her.
I remember that.
And people were like, "Damn, Bacon, your arms are huge!" And she was going along for like 30 or 40 people commented. She got a couple hundred likes. And then
Damn.
Jose just out of nowhere was like, "Are those Dozer arms?" And we're like, "How'd you know?"
Damn it, Jose.
Oh, it's so good.
Yeah. Nah, I mean, I work out, you know, obviously, but I definitely don't think you need. Our game is really about memory more than it is about any kind of real brute strength, unless you're checking someone.
Hell
So
Yeah.
quickness, like and snapping, like I think is more important than like raw power.
I don't think like a straight up bodybuilder would be good at foam fighting. It's just
Too slow.
too slow. Gotta be a useful muscle. Got another question. How can we push red tech at this point? It's got to be close to perfection. It's a good question.
Yeah, I mean, I think like anything that affects our core weight is always going to change the game. I think personally that our rules need to be probably tailored for this. I've been honestly saying this for like however many years now, that we really need a rule rewrite on like when it comes to red lengths, you know? And I like just because as carbon technology continues to like increase, we're going to see more and more ridiculous stuff. And I think at a certain point, the game is going to become unfun for anyone that's not a red fighter.
I can see
And
that.
I think it's very important for there to be a good like rock paper scissors to like balance of our game. Otherwise, you're going to have a bunch of dozer bucklers with 8 foot fucking swords that are balanced at the handle, swinging, you know, for like ridiculous. So like I that's probably what I would say. Like for red tech, it's just going to continue to improve as carbon technology continues to improve.
Yeah, then you add in armor and a helmet, and it's just even more of a threat.
I'm along the
Those
lines
are
of
in
like,
front of the TV. That is true.
right, you never know when you gotta get a good pump.
That's right.
I mean, I'm under like I honestly for anything you want to do to improve at, getting it to where you can do it like kind of as a habitual thing is so important for like improvement. Period. You know, it has you have to like people say I'm an analytical fighter, and I am, but I'm not analytical necessarily when I'm fighting like swing for swing. All that is trained, all that is habit, all that is like what I've drilled in like, you know, in practice or whatever. None of that is like, you know, nobody has the like conscious thought that's fast enough that like they see a difference in your guard at that moment and can throw that. That's just not how it works. You make setups and you like work on what you practiced based on those setups. And I split out in my head what the things I like the win conditions like I talked about before, but that's different than like in the middle of a fight, like being like Sherlock Holmes style to where I'm like, you know, able to like calculate everything in the moment. That's just not how it works. So like you really have to build up like strong habits.
Muscle memory is a big deal. Being able to kind of have that ultra instinct of just
Yeah.
like, cool. I've drilled my body enough to know that when they do this, I can just without
Yeah.
thinking do it. And you won't be able to do that unless you practice it.
Yeah.
Like you can analyze shit all day, but if you
Yep.
don't actually like integrate it into your fighting and
Yeah.
really train it, just
The trick is taking that analysis and putting it into practice slash training slash drills that trains your instinct to do what you wanted to do.
yep.
Yeah, I always try to tell newer fighters that think about the fight like 2, maybe 3 steps ahead right before you engage, but after that, you're gonna have to disengage.
Yeah. And I mean, they really are like certain things you can do, like certain shots that like if they like, especially red. That's what I love about red over sword and board or anything else. Every time you throw a shot at them, they have to do something about that shot.
Mhm.
You know, they have to respect it. They can't just passively block it with a board. You
Mhm.
know, they have to put their guard somewhere or do something to stop that shot from hitting them and or even void out of the range. You know, like something has to be done. So you like it's kind of like what I was saying earlier, whoever swings first, it's kind of like the first person moving in chess, you have to do something about it, you know. And if that's why I say no free lunches, because if they do something and you do nothing, well, you just like gave them like an extra step. And not to mention the chances that they hit you in that step are pretty high, even for someone who is an excellent defensive person. You know, every time somebody swings at you, there's a chance that shot gets through, you know.
Mhm. That's the beauty of red fighting. It's like it's your attacker and it's your blocker. So
Mhm.
you
Yeah.
always have to be making decisions of how you can get away with keeping yourself safe, but at the same time threatening your opponent. And it's very difficult at a high level to be able to pull that off.
Yeah,
So,
the two go hand in hand, really, you know.
yeah, like at its base, like that's what it's all about, is being able to defend yourself while threatening your opponent, all in one thing.
Hmm.
There's no
Any
such
other?
thing as a perfect defense.
No.
You
Not
gotta.
at all. Defense should always just be a supplement to your offense, you
Oh
know.
yeah.
It's like because in theory, if you if you kill them first every time, then you never really need a defense. Like, but I mean that's a perfect world, but defense can't operate without an offense. The opposite is not necessarily true. And that was
True.
like one of the me starting fighting. I was always like, oh, I want to be defensive, but it's a pipe dream at the best.
Maybe
Any other?
when 5-pound red swords, but not with.
Yeah.
I mean, even then, man, like your hands would get so trashed, like like I mean, and if those swords had been balanced properly, I still don't think you could do it. Because really, our swords were so so
Mhm.
unbalanced. It's just like basically hammering people. Oh,
Hashtag bring back band shop. Let's
Yeah.
make it happen in
No.
2023.
No.
I
Oh.
want injuries. I want failed weapons. I want
Um,
broken ribs.
I'm reblading this thing that's in my closet. I'm bringing it to Orc Wars.
Oh yeah.
Don't fight me with it, please.
Yeah. Especially for Fox's trial.
You know
Yeah,
what?
just for me.
Everyone
You
fights
guys
him. You have to use this.
Yeah.
talk for 2 seconds. I'm gonna go get that fucking axe that I'm bringing to Orc Wars. Just keep going. 5 seconds.
All right. All right.
That axe. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
What do I do with my hands?
I don't know. I had a cat. Now it's gone.
Yes.
Oh, and Luster, no, not that sword from Rook's house.
Bring it
It's
on.
probably like the same damn
It's
one.
probably the same thing. Yeah, that thing hurts.
God,
Just
they were
holding it.
nasty.
Bring
They were
bring
so
all
nasty.
the relics to Orc Wars, please.
Oh,
Look at this thing.
oh, that's
That
sweet,
is
dude.
a pancake. Like you can't even.
Bruh,
Hell yeah, dude. That's sweet.
this is all PVC, baby.
Oh, less
You're
sweet.
just gonna hit someone. And it's just like hit pancake.
Look at this.
Oh, the wiggle.
No
Oh.
flex. No flex at all.
Did you just break that thing wiggling it?
I knocked the thing off the wall, but that's not important.
Yeah.
How did I even hit? Oh, I had this here. Thank you.
Those
Doug.
wiggles, the like back in the old days where the fiberglass you hit it and it's like you didn't
Yep.
have to wrap those blades, man. If you hit it hard enough, it was just like
Yep.
bonk.
Oop. Yeah, 5 foot a half inch round. That was fun.
I still have Gorg's the first Omni he ever made me on Carbon around here somewhere, and it was
Mhm.
like when we were still like trying to figure out like or not figure it out, but Omnis were becoming a thing. I still have that laying around somewhere. It's pretty funny.
I just had Rothgar make this all pretty for my wedding. And it's
Beautiful.
got a antlers on it and a little foxtail on the bottom, but not field legal. He's a little too soft.
I have no
too
pretty
small.
weapons. I'm like extra tape. We're pulling that out.
Yeah.
Like we
And
put
then
that to the bottom of the handle.
he made this one for bacon.
They're so
Yeah.
cool.
There's
Yeah,
they're
wonderful.
badass.
Bombs too. And then my brother got me a real sword. That's in the other room. That's got our wedding date on it.
Yeah, that's
That's
awesome.
really sweet.
Badass. Well, any other questions before we wrap it up? It is 10 o'clock.
Yeah, I think
It went
people
faster
are
than I
getting
thought it would.
sleepy.
Goes
Yeah.
by quick,
We have,
surprisingly.
Mhm.
we have a good time here. Great time. All right. I think that's.
I
y'all-
will, Gord. I will definitely get in.
Yes,
Alright, cool.
congrats to Fox
Yeah,
and Holly.
It's
Yeah,
the
yeah.
Fox and Holly.
Thank you guys. Yep, we got
I mean, you
married
c-
on
You
Saturday.
can't call one their fighting name and one not. It's
Fair.
Fox and Bacon or Holly and
Yeah.
Ryan. Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
Who the fuck is Ryan?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I don't know. Not gonna lie, this is the first job I've had, like my job at this park I'm working at, where they call me Ryan, and it's still weird every time. I've been
Yeah,
called Fox my entire life.
It's weird when people call me by my real name too, because it's either always Damon or my last name at work.
Yeah.
So like
Right.
if
You got
anyone calls my mom or calls me by my real name, it's my mom. So
And you're in
Yeah,
trouble.
then you're in trouble. Yeah.
yeah, it's pretty awkward if I hear my real name. these days.
Christopher. Oh, shit. All right, guys. Well,
Well, I
thanks.
appreciate you guys having me on, and
Appreciate you
Of course, it
being
was a
here.
pleasure.
Absolutely. I'm sure this was a lot of good learning stuff for everybody in the chat.
a lot of rambling.
No,
That's
that's the good
okay.
It's
stuff.
a lot of
This-
learning.
Yeah, everyone gets a monologue.
I learned a lot.
Absolutely.
Ready to go
Well, thanks for
practice.
joining us.
Yeah, I got to stab some people.
You know, I learned some stuff just from this little podcast. So everybody's got stuff to work on, and if you don't in the chat, then you didn't listen. You need to go watch it again. Like, subscribe, do all the things.
Yeah. If you don't have anything to work on, then you're not paying enough attention.
Yeah,
'Cause nobody's perfect.
do better.
Yes, it's also at 10 o'clock where Discord just dies.
It's just every hour, man.
Damn.
And if people want shirts, we'll talk about merch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some good ideas on those shirts, man, for sure.
Mhm.
I know Arden used to do merch all the time for his weightlifting
Yes,
stuff.
I have some. I wish I should have wore one for this thing because I have a few.
I need to pick me up
That'll be
some.
the next time we'll all deck out.
Man,
I still sell them. I just don't fucking make anymore. I just make the money off of them.
There you go.
got a fever for more barbell.
We got a fever. All right, guys. Everybody have a
All right,
good
guys.
night. Thanks again, Dozer.
Yep. Catch y'all later.
Later, guys.
Later, guys.
See you guys. Red or
Night.
dead.